Nyonji morzo nyume jang zoner monum jimbor nga gyada bakar dargon zanto shirmurdo shtumba de jejan la jomzorlo ne jaror tsengi jangamsa jawr tikti shanla yelan jime banzo jawla soranda konje toban bawro shinjilo konje toban bawro shinjilo konje toban bawro shinjilo
Profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we can hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate all sentient beings, please give rise to the unsurpassed and supreme bodhicitta.
Di tse shansi sanwa sanwa chenpo sayi nyambu chondan de landar kato sora zamba chondan de daka tebjan shokir zamchir kir toblab tenne jikten di kam shiwa chokja changme namsa likji chira na tsukun yete ler nambar mambi semchen tak jara shiba wo ka chate zhang shakba shamba chenpo stop mayin dak kone tertan chara nipa mayin no dak ter dak tangne zon te chondan de jib karta jara shamba jikten di kamsa mafshun wardan ruwa chika semchen nam jara shawu lakso chondan de kechi tigle chongrim zap muggu so yang di tse chondan de jib shambi songwa sayi nyambo lab karsarwa Ruwa matura semchen namji semji kam nangi ba mepe lalanar digbo wakchak le sam samjura tang lalanar gewe wakchak mjewe lan samjura tang lalanar gewa lab jipa tang lalanar digba jipa la sobe yirjiji samjane jipa go semchen dedak karwar dirhni ki war darka jik zamyang war so mepran ruwa chika lamda nyumo ba tang maruk ba jibi churi tab mepa go te khwerna nya arnam gyara tsatte chanang tang neba na Shkabri chungzi tar yang lar yang gyagjan da sabab jano da kin ruwa ter namla labar da semle chungrub shi jang janju sanwa kyo jir ngun kara chame pa ne shanchub da tig jete dig nomban ruwa ter tang jembar yewe da kat ter da semle chungrub shi mago so ter kat songba na charki na ne shanchub sanwa Shanchib sanwa sanwa chimbo tangin zin wangar gyarpo jib shawab chomdan de landar katak sorob zumbab chomdan de tangdarab chomdan de jichi nanjin jib shanchib sanwa sayi nyambo la chib ngab ramzad na kongo fukarwa toma ne tik chirtar kepa tam chomdan de jib dibir goni tik chirtar kepar chomdan de jib dibir goni daglab tandak soro tene chomdan de jib shanchib sanwa tangin zin wangar gyarpo landar katak kwar sarwa lagbar nyola yela zongshik da ngi kyolab tambar shawa te ngun karwa chang me pa tsab me pa joto me pa kongror na Devjan shaba rabchun ba yong tabur zogba san jirik ba dan jazuz dan ba dewa shaban jitim kima kiyendara kalov jira lana me ba lana marnam jir tomba yishi tamchit jiba jib shawi san jib shundo san jit ki tsad na kara chikchi yin la san jite rabta ma shungwa ti isa gyarchin shikir gyarbo yin la ti ni gyarkim jir gyarbo dan chuksa gyarwa dan gyarbo ti ni ki gyawab chi irgoni rangranga yirkim nam ji semchin nala pamrab jiba ti tertana yang nizir ki gyarkim Ti marnam ki markiwa na so hlawa te ne gyarpo te ni je hlara yang panzan chumar she te tab kya chimbola kubra she so yang gyarpo chi ki ngun da ngun da san gene zo da semchen mali ba tam dar gewi te keda yang gyarpo chi ka tomar dig no ba semchen na shan chi de ala ko te zo da rang tsar gewi te kedo chumden de jansu sang wa tang en ngur gyarpo Karsarwa chondan gyarpo kangjir ngun rangnya tomar san gyar tik kenete na tarte san ji ishi tamchi chuba jibshawa te yin lar ngun digdig no ba samjan tamchi khtan de wala mapko jiwarda rangnya tsang margya war do ba te na tarte shan chu sangwa sai nyambo do yono yang kara khadam me ba chame bi ngoror na san ji Arnambar taqba pama mikjib shawan jikdendor shondo san jiti irki tsadna karwa jibchi yin la tiq zingnin jib tamba tisa son laftenne roa jorvi rabchumba jib shono rabchumba te kim susuru shone rimjib sornyum zaba go yang ti gangji ka tse vadme chikdam chapar kira vadme ti mangla gozir mikjin jib shawa vadme te Ti yang zer nambar na tsukbab kodne rabchun bala parvar shiso rabchun be chiba wamo kyodo chundod wazir minki lan me ba terkib daka ma shivi tijanji nimo yin daka mar karki ma shivi sonumji tsukula tenne tenye dar kyobar do rabchun bati tig tsevir go ne semir tsek chikdam nyambar jagne ftebe wazir minki ma te ngansun go ne zilhone Dungur Jimbo Myong Yobram Tongo, Rapjumbe Gozer Migla Jiba, Mo Teni the Sum, Kujima Deni Sumbati Susha Chikuma in, Tartan Ansung Gones, Dungur Jimbo Myong the Gozer Mikmeba, the Comaxum Betis, Kumber Shavi, Lane, So Nyadam, Chikla Sobi, Cherne Nam, Zavala Gazan, Mazin Nyadam, Chukasuk, Zavara Shindo Ga, Tetar Nuadam, Sopala, Sopirgoni. Chagger Lonsu Shachan, Di John of Jarton Cheese, Damger Legend Jotome Bayano, Zamba Jabjumbe Jajabalaga, Niki Tipsa Jimbo, Dakama, Capto, Soro, the Jabjumbe Vomola, Tipsi Virgoni, Mateni Turi, Taptamba, Darkator, Me, Ba, Kyotir Sirsi, the Dever Shabba, number of Pami Mug, Yella, Shula, Tirk, Remur Javadan, Dark, Jean Lasso, Shiena, Show, Don Sombo, Namla, number Mbam Jeva, Young Tabatober, Jero, the name Womo Gozer make a terkata to be Jizaranga Kimdalo, the Uborn, Pani, Santiti, Skills with him, Chobajet, Shibadan. Mugnim Chima Jir, Jen the Kibachimbu, Semgi, Santi Dirkala, Sherian, Sarvago, Noctur Milam Dirkas, Santi Dirkur, Sergim Dogentav, Gooden Serva, Zabjatan Dambari, Jarwatavajim, Jer, Kutijang, Gozer Gachimbo, Gete, Gozer Muglander Katokasaro, Homo Gozer Muguti, Mate, Niti, Rambur, Motober, Kutim, the Kiver in Gerla. Deep Jibadan, Chanwala, Soba Shibane, Zonte, Zonte, Mir Kadama Shibran Jero, Deniti, Jesse, Kimji Tramojila, Vajiki, Jackson Malon Kong, the Mirka Labor, Mirka Labor Mani Ban of Shibati, Vamode, Museum, Shamsat and Dirket Meban, Kurionis, Literature, Sarjam, Jeverangam, Yon and Gerla, the Nuki Mayan, Nature Capture, Neville, Young Rambo, Membionis and Cambridge, these Jesus, Larian, Yarachimbu. Onesa yang no tata kyuki sonum sabto la tenne dak mali tober jere testana yang mambe rigse tiejan ranga tsetset yang lob chasam zamle mepi tse thwa yano di jisab dak ngasung onesa stongren jere dak tele chori tapchster yot gozr mekter kat thune ranga mayen ber tetsum chader kat ngajam mugnem chima bjerjun de trammo valander kater mezo kid da qa mayen da kyuki digba chinra shibi lamba yen ber singi testana kyuki digba le chizgi de ngasung onesa thwa yenna tene Tramuvi Lander Meba The Kachuk Badang, Namju Shibadang, Kurande Babshibim, Tertim Yuma Yena, Karte Kikite, Gesta Tezam, the Mabjana Tadon, the Capita Mamchi, so Legitop Telatene, Dala Tarayobam, Taratobayam Medo, the Negozer Mukmeba, Nervi Nes, Digpel Lair, number Membana, Chestava Yena, Tramu Meba. Nyari ne sirdik belegi number membanır dıhın jutum zoparte lo yapçık tonjum mambonand çertir medyan tim tanı zaten mepago gozir me ki terk de tuni sim kyojan mıgnem şima jirjanda namki yansıtete ndırkıtıq sordu çok canavcık basan getik canın dağla gonsu soru da me çet sim gerçin bu ki bıraksandık soru da maten nyari ne tarvadan lopçıksım son Verji digbeler number zadne ngansung gonesi mırlung varım zatak soru dakı ngansung gonne dakı ma ngansung gonne daktan da çerde rig mambane zonte tana verme kilise yaktan da mırki varım zatak soru daktan ne zonte tevjang jigbar number daba pammi mük kerner çirtkıt simke bro şao daktan ne karab jarton şeva çami ki vardı şokçu sonsun jiktin çirni bayo barnamgi Nyara sogo ngansung gne ji semjin tedg yongsu jara shuru semjin tedg nyara dang shorsong do yed gne ne prade namkin khtan ji deva sanji ji komhamato ki vardım ngomr sang javr mavsha mu terkit simke badan tevjin shaban number mekin derkit 90 ba tubr jirtu.
First of all, today I want to take some time to talk about a few important things here. The first thing I'd like to bring up is something that has been occurring quite frequently and noticeably recently, both across various online platforms and in numerous other locations and communities as well. There have been some recent rumors about this matter. They say that Larangar is currently holding a Ksitigarbha Dharma assembly, doing this and that particular Buddhist ceremony, engaging in various spiritual practices and so on. However, on this specific occasion, Larangar did not proceed with holding a formal Dharma assembly. Because of the pandemic, we couldn't hold it this year. It's just that internally everyone is reciting Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's name or reciting the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva heart mantra or the King of Aspiration prayers. These are activities and efforts that we consistently undertake many years. Wherever we may be located, whether we are present online through various digital channels or in any other physical setting, and irrespective of the specific platform we choose to utilize, we are continuously engaged in conducting all sorts of comprehensive publicity campaigns, as well as actively interacting with a diverse range of different and dedicated devotees, advising them to do good deeds or saying all sorts of things. Maybe when the time comes, the person speaking themselves, it's not really entirely clear whether it's truly convenient for them or not. It's precisely the same on our side as well. We haven't utilized any particular platform, whether it's online, on WeChat, on Weibo, including through direct messages or in written communications. There has been absolutely no public announcement or publicity at all. Nor have we announced anything like holding a Dharma assembly. Everyone should really pay close attention to this important matter. That's one significant thing. Now, the second important thing to note is that this current month marks the auspicious occasion of the Wheel Turning Day, which is indeed considered a very significant and highly propitious day for all. No matter where you are, I sincerely hope that everyone will diligently and consistently practice virtuous and commendable deeds. Whether it's listening, contemplating, or practicing the Dharma, reciting sacred sutras, circumambulating venerable stupas, or offering luminous lamps, making generous offerings to the revered Sangha, or compassionately releasing living beings, doing any truly virtuous deed genuinely brings immense merit. After our great master Shakyamuni Buddha attained enlightenment, the very first time he turned the wheel of Dharma on the profound Four Noble Truths was at the sacred Deer Park in India. This is indeed a universally recognized and truly special day. So everyone, please do not waste your precious time. You should diligently practice virtuous deeds yourself indeed, especially on July 24th, which is truly the day of Shakyamuni Buddha's first sacred turning of the Dharma wheel itself. This is stated very clearly in the relevant calendars as well. Buddhists all over the world, everywhere in different various countries and regions, we should regard this as a truly significant day for very earnest and diligent practice. We should all make exceptionally good use of these precious opportunities. This is because, according to the relevant and important sutras and commentaries, among the 4 great and auspicious festivals of the Buddha, if we engage in virtuous deeds on these days, the merit that we accumulate will be greatly multiplied many, many times over beyond measure. Our virtuous roots will increase exponentially. So for each person, such causes and conditions, such auspicious opportunities should be acknowledged. If you don't acknowledge them, then perhaps the principle of good begets good, evil begets evil, or the profound meaning and concept of cause and effect may just be rather vague for you. Other than that, there is no other reasoning at all. Therefore, in this particular regard, everyone should practice virtuous deeds diligently with dedication. Do not be distracted, lazy, or careless at any time whatsoever, and remain constantly and deeply engaged in various unwholesome actions and deeds. If, even during this sacred and auspicious month, one still deliberately commits such unwholesome actions, then the resulting negative karma created may also be extremely severe and profound, leading to significant consequences. So everyone should be cautious in accepting and rejecting causes and effects. There is another important aspect to consider. When we recite scriptures here, from a comprehensive overall perspective, it genuinely seems that the ongoing global pandemic across virtually all the major cities and urban centers now has fundamentally and effectively been brought under a significant degree of control. Here, whether it's the so-called resuming of work, the reopening of various businesses, the resuming of essential repairs, or whatever other activity it may be, it is clear that things are indeed gradually progressing forward, though of course the situation is not yet fully and completely open. For example, I personally have not had the occasion to receive any visitors recently at all. At the same time, all of us also, because in some places, even if the pandemic is truly brought under control, still we are facing challenges. It doesn't necessarily mean it's completely gone. So whether on a personal level or a collective level, we are still being very careful, including consistently wearing masks and thoroughly disinfecting surfaces, as well as taking precise temperature checks. In these crucial aspects, we also need to pay very careful attention sometimes. Some fellow practitioners, for instance, because they go on strenuous hiking trips and carrying extremely heavy and cumbersome luggage, so in such specific and demanding cases, When entering into various restaurants or hotel entrances, because the ambient temperature is quite hot, their body temperature might naturally be a little bit high, which can scare themselves. But in reality, that's not actually the true case at all. So sometimes, while we are being very cautious and careful, we should also keep that important consideration in mind. Of course, at this time, I think our fellow practitioners here, when you are reciting the sacred scriptures, if some of you devout individuals wish to go to the scripture hall, the men can certainly proceed to the Lama's dedicated scripture hall, and the women can also go to the nuns' scripture hall as well, or basically within the sacred confines of our scripture halls. However, each individual makes their aspirations. It is all considered very good and meritorious, of course according to our established usual requirements and sacred rules, engaging in the diligent recitation of scriptures and actively attending the profound teachings in this prescribed manner. This should be very good indeed and should be done precisely this way. I won't say much more about the rest. Next, we will continue with the teaching of the profound Ksitigarbha Sutra. This sacred text offers deep insights. There will be no class tomorrow. The day after tomorrow, we will either continue with the Ksitigarbha Sutra, or at that time we might recite the Bodhisattva precepts ritual according to the original instructions of His Holiness. But the precise specifics are still not entirely clear at this moment. Everything else is basically the same, truly. There is absolutely no difference for you, our valued listeners. It will be just like the day before yesterday, which was a very recent occurrence. After that particular day, I will not have any scheduled classes for the remainder of this current week. Looking ahead to next week, there most likely won't be any classes before Thursday because we are scheduled to completely finish reciting the sutra on Tuesday. On Wednesday, everyone might truly need to take a short break. On Thursday, my class may or may not be held as scheduled. If there is a class on Friday scheduled, we'll see when the time comes later. Maybe there will be one, maybe there won't be one. If there is, there is. If not, then not really anyway. If there is, even if it's just one person, I will teach on Friday. If there isn't, even if there are 100 people present, there still won't be a class. If there is, then there truly is. If not, then absolutely not. That's precisely what I mean. That's the complete schedule for next week, just so you know. Let's proceed with the Ksitigarbha Sutra. Today in this sutra, we will discuss the karmic retribution of sentient beings in Jambudvapa. The karmic retribution of sentient beings is inconceivable. The power of karma is truly indeed beyond imagination. On this topic, let me first share a simple efficacy story that illustrates this point. First, let me talk about Master Uyi from Han region, a highly revered and influential figure. Everyone should be familiar with him, as he was a prominent and respected Buddhist master who is widely recognized as one of the 4 great monks of the Ming dynasty. He was the 3rd patriarch of the Tiantai school and the 9th patriarch of the Pure Land school. So he was truly a remarkably influential and profoundly significant figure of his entire generation. However, the challenging circumstances surrounding his relatively early ordination were also closely related to the Ksitigarbha Sutra. At first, when he was young, he studied Confucianism. He held Confucianism in very high regard. At that time, he was rather opposed to Buddhism. In fact, when he was a child, he even wrote several dozens of anti-Buddhist essays as a way to defend Confucianism. It was a comprehensive treatise specifically criticizing the doctrines and practices of Buddhism. Later, when he was approximately 17 years old, he encountered some significant and insightful Buddhist books related to the esteemed Master Lianchi. After carefully and diligently reading them, he profoundly realized that his previous understanding and perspectives, dozens of articles criticizing Buddhism, were unreasonable, highly unreasonable, profoundly mistaken. But later, he burned all of them without leaving a trace. No trace, nothing remaining. Then, when he turned 20, became 20, his father passed away, unexpectedly died. This event had a significant impact on him, major impact, lasting effect. After that, he began to study Buddhism continuously, earnestly study. Then, once at a monastery, ancient temple, from a Dharma master there, he heard the Ksitigarbha Sutra. At that time, he developed great faith in the Ksitigarbha practice. He also developed renunciation. Later, due to this profound cause and condition, he became a devoted monk. After ordaining, he also diligently practiced the Ksitigarbha Dharma with great dedication and earnestness. He humbly called himself the unlearned servant of Ksitigarbha, the only servant of Bodhisattva Ksitigarbha, devoted servant. There is indeed also such a saying. Later, in many different places on Mount Jiuhua, he spread the Ksitigarbha Dharma teachings. If we look at some of Master Uyi's works, there is a lot related to the Sutra on the divination of the effect of good and evil actions in them. There is a lot. He also lectured on the Sutra of the 10 Wheels of Ksitigarbha. As for the original vows of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva Sutra, some historical accounts say it was not put into written form. But regardless of that particular situation, he still meticulously wrote a great many comprehensive books on this profound subject matter. Later, when he was solemnly making his sacred vows, he also explicitly said, "In the truly boundless seas of all worlds, I will liberate sentient beings, and until the very end of future kalpas, I will never, ever grow weary or become discouraged." I think this kind of profound vow, just like the vows made by the revered Bodhisattva Ksitigarbha, he, throughout endless future kalpas, continually liberates sentient beings, never growing tired or discouraged. He made this vow. Even if there is a single sentient being who has not attained Buddhahood, he himself will not become a Buddha. So many of Master Uyi's later vow texts are also very moving. After listening to the Ksitigarbha Sutra this time, I also truly hope that when we study a scripture, it's not just about the words and phrases themselves, nor is it simply about being able to barely explain the literal meaning, and that's not the goal we aim for. Rather, this scripture should provide inspiration to each of us. What kind of inspiration should it bring? We should make vows like Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva make this kind of vow. So what is the vow of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva? No matter if it's beings in the evil realms or beings in hell, or to put it another way, as long as sentient beings in the 6 realms have not attained Buddhahood, I will not become a Buddha, I will not become a Buddha. It's not what atheists say, that if I don't become a Buddha, I'll just do something else. That's not what it means. It means that if I am to attain Buddhahood, I must first liberate all sentient beings. This is the kind of vow being made. For many people nowadays, this kind of vow, we may be ordinary people. We have selfish and self-interested minds. But we should still make this vow. In the future, we should try our best to reduce selfish and self-interested actions, and do as many things as possible that benefit sentient beings, whether others know about it or not. This is truly very important. So, for example, Master Uyi was initially critical of Buddhism, just like Master Hongyi and many other revered figures in the past. But later, relying on the Ksitigarbha practice, he made the truly great and profound Mahayana vow. Among those of us present here today, perhaps in the past, due to our inherent ignorance, the surrounding environment, or our educational background and upbringing, for these various and complex reasons, we may have inadvertently slandered the sacred Dharma, criticized Buddhism, or even committed such verbal offenses. However, if we truly rely upon the Ksitigarbha practice to sincerely repent, I firmly believe that we can attain a state of purity. The Ksitigarbha practice is indeed very extraordinary. A few years ago, I translated His Holiness's Always Remembering. In Always Remembering, I remember at that time, His Holiness specifically spoke about the 4 major Dharma assemblies at Larunga, their different origins and merits. Among these, there is one section, I recall the 41st section, which specifically discusses this topic. His Holiness said that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva has a special karmic connection with the sentient beings of our Saha world. If the sentient beings of our Saha world pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, then, in a broad sense, one can attain the fruition of Buddhahood, Bodhisattva, Shravaka, or Pratyeka Buddha, such levels of realization. On a smaller scale, even things like getting promoted or becoming wealthy, all worldly benefits and gains we pursue can be easily obtained. That is why he is so precious that 100,000 wish-granting jewels cannot compare. So, at that time, His Holiness said, during the Ksitigarbha Dharma assembly, we should pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. At that time, when I had just begun to study and contemplate the teachings, my discursive thoughts were still quite strong. I once thought, why are there 8 great bodhisattvas in Buddhism, and why did His Holiness emphasize Samantabhadra Bodhisattva and Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva so highly? Why a special Dharma assembly for Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, not for Avalokiteshvara or Manjushruta? Why emphasis on Samantabhadra and Ksitigarbha? At that time, perhaps, I was a bit ignorant and didn't understand. It wasn't until last year, translating the Ksitigarbha Sutra, that I finally understood. Oh, it turns out that His Holiness knew many of these causes and conditions through his wisdom. Because here in Tibetan region, to be honest, the teachings and stories related to the Ksitigarbha practice are actually quite rare. We only have the 10-wheel Sutra of Ksitigarbha. We don't have the Sutra of the divination of good and evil karmic retribution, nor do we have the original vows of Ksitigarbha Sutra. Ksitigarbha stories here differ from Han Chinese, lacking miraculous tales, but Mifam Rinpoche writes the lives of the 8 great Bodhisattvas. Every time His Holiness would talk about the merits of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, at that time, I truly thought in Mifam Rinpoche's Lives of the 8 Great Bodhisattvas, aside from the stories in the 10-wheel Sutra of Ksitigarbha, there are basically none. In citations, Mifam Rinpoche mentioned Ksitigarbha Sutra a lot, but when I checked later, they came from the 10-wheel Sutra of Ksitigarbha. At that time, the original vows of Ksitigarbha Sutra probably did not exist in Tibetan area, so I felt that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is different from other Bodhisattvas, especially in fulfilling the wishes for sentient beings. Totally different, because now with the pandemic and all, the global situation has changed to some extent. So many people are indeed experiencing disasters at this time. I won't recite it today because every day we have been constantly reciting many names. You can also recite them yourselves. The name of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, we have been reciting it recently, so let's not recite it in class today, because from morning till night you have been reciting it continuously. Although for various reasons outside, we haven't been reciting it loudly over the loudspeakers, but quietly, deep within the loudspeaker of our hearts, we have truly been reciting it all along. So it is perfectly fine if we do not recite it today. But I believe that if we pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva faithfully, all kinds of various disasters in the world currently right now will also undergo some changes. I remember once His Holiness said that we hadn't had any rain for dozens of days now, and the severe drought was very, very serious indeed, including our areas of Seda, Ganzi and Shinlong, as well as Rangtang and the nearby Luhuo, which are both significant locations. Several counties were indeed experiencing severe drought at that particular time. All of us monastics came together to pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. After His Holiness said this, then indeed, within a couple of days there was a torrential downpour. That particular year, the crops and everything else had a truly great harvest and excellent, outstanding results. Now, things are a bit different. Now, it's raining heavily all over the world. But gradually, when I look at the weather forecast for about the past half month here, because you can basically see it on there, for the past half month, it's basically been continuous rain, heavy rain, and various sorts of weather. But no matter what, if we pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, I believe many conditions and circumstances can also change. Whether we are dedicated monastics or sincere lay practitioners, if everyone prays wholeheartedly and with deep devotion, many challenging conditions can indeed be profoundly transformed. Especially right now, perhaps everyone is facing even more significant difficulties and obstacles. We observe that many entrepreneurs and some individuals, no matter what their personal situation was before, whether in life or in anything they did, there were no problems. But now things are indeed more difficult. We often see a lot of this too. If we also pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, many conditions can be transformed. It is very possible to get promoted and become truly prosperous. Previously, as also explicitly mentioned and thoroughly documented in the supplement to the Buddhist canon, there was a notable person who lived during the illustrious Song dynasty. What was her life like? And what distinguished her at that particular historical juncture? She was in fact a remarkable woman, originating from the historically significant region of Shenliu County. Then later she became a devotee of the Ksitigarbha practice. She was always wholeheartedly reciting the holy name of Ksitigarbha. Then, on one particular occasion when she came home, she discovered that there were many tiny ants in the house. All of these numerous ants appeared to be a distinct golden yellow in color. Overwhelmed by their presence, she didn't dare to step on them and was truly afraid to go inside. The very next day, all the ants were gone, but in all the places where the ants had gathered, there was nothing but vast golden sand. She meticulously collected all of that precious golden sand, and it was indeed a truly immense amount. After that remarkable endeavor, she became a very wealthy and prosperous person. She then sold her house and turned it into a scripture hall, building a temple there for worship and practice. Later, the wife of the prominent local county lord passed away suddenly at that particular time, and then she became his wife after some time had passed by. Whether it's getting promoted or becoming wealthy in many respects, although this is a story from the Song dynasty, in reality there truly are some karmic responses that are beyond comprehension. Therefore, in times like ours now, even from a worldly perspective. If we pursue things according to worldly ideas and conventional desires, then praying to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is indeed an extremely important and significant practice. Earlier, we discussed these two specific cases in detail, and now we will proceed to discuss further aspects and implications of Chapter 4, the chapter on the karmic conditions of beings in Jambudvapa, the fourth chapter. At this time, the great Bodhisattva Ksitigarbha respectfully addressed the Buddha and made this inquiry. World-honored one, it is by relying on the awesome spiritual power and miraculous abilities of the Tathagata that I am able to reach hundreds of thousands of millions of worlds and manifest so many emanations. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva also said, these emanations of mine are not achieved through my own personal power, but rather what is it truly due to? It is profoundly due to the Buddha's immense and awesome spiritual power, and it is also due to the profound and benevolent blessings bestowed by the Buddha. The Buddha's truly awesome spiritual power enables me to pervade all of these vast hundreds of thousands of worlds. I am able to manifest so many emanations and to rescue all sentient beings in the 6 realms who are suffering greatly from the dire consequences of their accumulated karma. If it were not for the Tathagata's compassion, blessings, and awesome spiritual power, I myself would not be able to manifest such transformations. I would not be able to make such changes, nor could I have so many emanations. Yesterday we spoke about the hells, so very many hells, and within all these hells, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's emanations are just as numerous. In all the various different worlds, there are also just as many emanations of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva to guide and liberate sentient beings. In this passage, it is mentioned that as Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, he should be profoundly grateful for the immense and benevolent blessings bestowed upon him by the Buddha, because it is precisely through the Buddha's divine and compassionate blessings that he is now able to manifest so many emanations to benefit sentient beings. So this can also be explained in the following way. Some of us may have in the past studied the Dharma in a certain specific place, in the very end, whether it was profound wisdom, deep compassion, or remarkable ability. There was unprecedented growth in all aspects. And if you have gained a certain level of capability, then, as for all the sources of that progress, logically speaking, we should remember where our water comes from when we drink it. And we ought to have a heart of gratitude and repay kindness. But if we do not, and always think that it was achieved solely and exclusively through our own intelligence and capabilities, this kind of thinking is actually quite unreasonable. Why do we say that the profound kindness of the Guru is so great? Actually, at the very beginning, if the Guru had not given you such guidance, we might not have the capacity to spread the Mahayana teachings and benefit sentient beings as we do now. So for each individual person, it is truly very important to possess and cultivate a genuine sense of gratitude. I often find myself thinking in this very same way. Even now, I still diligently continue to maintain the image and the dedicated practice of a committed practitioner. And on the surface, there are no apparent obstacles, and I am basically able to accomplish things. In fact, it is due to the blessings of the Guru and the 3 jewels, and also the blessings of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, as well as the blessings of the Dharma protectors. Only with all of this can we have such strength. Otherwise, if we relied solely on our own efforts, it would be absolutely impossible. Therefore, we should realize that if we have any abilities at all, they must have their own definite original source, real origin, somewhere in the past, earlier period of time. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva continued to say, I have profoundly received the Buddha's sacred entrustment, his clear and comprehensive instructions, and his compassionate and timely reminders. From the time of the Buddha's parinirvana until Maitreya attains Buddhahood, from this present moment now until the eventual appearance of the great future, revered Maitreya Buddha coming in the world, all sentient beings in the 6 realms can attain liberation. This means that today, having now received the Buddha's sacred entrustment, from this very moment onward, all sentient beings under the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha, up until the very actual time before the Maitreya Buddha appears in this entire world, all these sentient beings are entrusted to me. I am sent to save and truly liberate them from their suffering and burdens. In this way, Venerable World-Honored One, please do not harbor any worries or concerns, since you have placed such profound trust in me and have graciously entrusted me with this significant and sacred responsibility. I sincerely pray that the World-Honored One need not be concerned or troubled at all in the slightest. Perhaps Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva might not be able to save such wild and unruly sentient beings, such violent beings. In fact, the Buddha is still truly very concerned and indeed worried about the sentient beings in this Saha world who are so stubborn and difficult to transform. Can Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva really deliver them? Perhaps on one hand, there is a reason why the Buddha entrusted this task to him, but on the surface he still appears quite worried, because the sentient beings in the Saha world are especially difficult to save. So there is a greater sense of concern, but here it is clearly said, Buddha, please just leave it all to me. From this moment until the time of the Maitreya Buddha, let me truly save all of the incredibly stubborn and hard to transform sentient beings throughout all existence. Since the Buddha trusts me so much, recognizes me and understands me so really well, then I have no problem at all. You don't need to worry, just leave this matter to me. For me, this is a very simple and easily understandable matter. In the following sentence, it mainly talks about the revered Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. This discussion will explore whether it's his own profound confidence or his inherent spiritual power that is being highlighted. He expresses it quite clearly. At this point, the Buddha tells Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, all sentient beings who have not yet attained liberation have unstable natures and consciousness. He says that all ordinary sentient beings who have not yet attained complete liberation, in actual fact, their fundamental nature and consciousness are not truly fixed. They are inherently unstable and not at all firm. Bad habits lead to negative karma, good habits lead to positive results. Whether doing good or evil, it all profoundly follows external circumstances and arises entirely according to conditions. Here, he says that we ordinary sentient beings, nature and consciousness are especially unstable. How are they unstable? If one has the habitual tendencies of evil, negative tendencies, harmful patterns, and is in a negative environment, unwholesome surroundings, then what kind of connections will be formed? One will form negative causes and conditions which lead to negative karma and results. If you have the opportunity and you have some positive habitual tendencies, then what kind of connections will be formed in your life? You will form good karma and positive beneficial results. Here, when he says karma and result, I think what he means is karma and its fruit, karmic fruit. It's not necessarily that evil leads to karma, negative karma, and good leads to results. What it truly means is, for example, if you unfortunately encounter really bad friends or perhaps live in a consistently negative environment, then and are constantly exposed to negative influences in your education, then you will accumulate negative karma. If you have some positive habitual tendencies, then you will accumulate good karma and positive results. In this way, whether you perform good deeds or commit evil acts, all of your subsequent good and evil actions, every single one of them, are related to your external circumstances and environment. One who stays near vermilion becomes red. One who stays near ink becomes black. It depends on what kind of people you associate with. For example, a piece of very damp, decaying wood, if it were to be thrown into a lush, fragrant sandalwood forest in the exotic land of Malaya, after some time it will also smell very fragrant. In the same way, what kind of person you truly really are, in different environments and circumstances, will indeed produce different effects. Just as it is said in the forest of Gem, in the garden of the Dharma, all sentient beings have unstable minds and follow whatever habits they are exposed to. Near good become good, near evil become evil. This means that the nature and will of sentient beings are not fixed. They change according to the environment they are in, according to the situations they encounter, or according to the people they associate with. All of these truly can bring about significant change. If they indeed encounter good conditions, they will become good. Conversely, if they encounter bad conditions, they will unfortunately become bad as well. This is truly indeed the case. Not only people, but even animals are even like this. I don't know if you remember or not, but I once told a fascinating story from the history of the entrustment of the Dharma Sutra. A powerful king had a magnificent white, wild elephant. This particular elephant was specifically and exclusively used to punish criminals. In that particular country, when they needed to punish their criminals, it wasn't like it is now, with shooting or hanging. No, it wasn't like that. At that time, they used elephants to trample people to death. This magnificent white elephant often, whenever someone was tragically sentenced to death, was brought forth, was used to trample them. Once, because the elephant's enclosure needed to be rebuilt, completely rebuilt, they placed it near a monastery, a peaceful Buddhist monastery. It often heard the voices of the monks inside the monastery who were chanting and praying. After some time had passed like this, when they brought the enormous elephant to cruelly trample innocent people, it would just sniff around and wouldn't trample them to death at all. Its heart had become very kind. At that time, the ministers gathered to discuss the reason for this. One minister, who was quite wise and very insightful and indeed quite sagacious, said, "I know the reason. It has recently been near the monastery. It often hears the sacred chanting of the Buddha's name. That's why it has become compassionate. There probably isn't any other reason. It would be quite best if we tied it up very near a nearby slaughterhouse. That might work better," they mused. So they proceeded to change the elephant's living environment, carefully tying it up right next to the slaughterhouse. After a period of time, sure enough, the results began to show. The elephant behaved just as it had before, previously behaved, remaining extremely fierce and violent, brutally violent, dangerously aggressive. It continued to trample people to death, innocent people. So animals are all influenced by their environment, surrounding environment. In rare cases, if the temperament is very bad indeed, just as the great Sakya Pandita said in The Treasury of Good Advice, there are a few individuals who, even if they are in a monastery, even if they are in a quiet place, their malicious intent is very hard to change. But for most people, it really does have something to do with the surrounding environment, the quality of education, and the influential people around them. There is still a certain undeniable connection. So for us, especially those individuals who have not yet attained true liberation, indeed, it is also for our own personal protection. Generally speaking, when you need to choose your environment, at first, you might be quite curious. You might then go to casinos or to places with singing and dancing, for example. At first, you think you won't change, but gradually you will be influenced by the environment. You will truly be influenced by your friends, by all kinds of external conditions and circumstances. For ordinary people, it's very hard to withstand these external influences. The incense that you are burning doesn't even truly look like incense at all. Why is there so very much smoke coming out? Even the venerable Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is a little bit displeased. Look, the entire hall is completely filled with it. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva might even start coughing. Maybe it's on purpose. This way is a little bit better, right? The incense, So here it explicitly states that we, as ordinary beings, truly and profoundly change and adapt with different environments and various conditions that we encounter. Therefore, it is crucial not to think to yourself that after studying Buddhism for 2 or 3 days, or being ordained for a few years, there shouldn't be any problems now. You can't think like that. Even Atisha said not to be influenced by the environment. Only bodhisattvas at the first ground and above are not affected by their environment. This is also stated in previous teachings. So we still need to be mindful. Good and evil are still related to our environment, education, and the people around us. There is still a certain connection. Some students I used to financially sponsor, giving them some tuition fees, were very kind when they first graduated, freshly graduated. The jobs they chose at that time, for example, often involved punishment and the like, harsh punishment, severe penalties in some specific systems, or rather in very special environments. Originally, these individuals were truly kind-hearted people. But later, when they started working in their respective roles in rather special circumstances, after another 2 full years, their eyes became very bloodshot, with clearly visible and prominent blood vessels, which was quite a frightening and unsettling sight to behold. There was indeed a very significant and noticeable difference. Some individuals, when they first emerged from school, were said to be rather fond of fighting, and their behavior wasn't particularly good. But later, because their jobs were transferred, they ended up among groups that were more inclined toward goodness. In such cases, typically after a few years, the person really became like a completely different person, totally different from before. So sometimes even for us practitioners, we shouldn't think of ourselves as, oh, I've been studying for so many years, or I've been ordained for so many years, and now I'm definitely not affected by any environment. That's not necessarily true. Really, it's not certain. So don't be too confident in yourself. Sometimes your own mind is not trustworthy. As it says in the Buddhist scriptures, your mind is not to be trusted. So, our minds are still not entirely reliable. We should always be mindful of this important fact. Next, it clearly states, sentient beings who are continually revolving in the 6 realms of samsara do not have even a moment, not even an instant of rest. Moreover, in just a very brief period of time, countless kalpas, as numerous as infinitesimal dust particles, can truly and indeed pass by. So, these sentient beings are often in a perpetual state of profound confusion and significant obstacles. Indeed, sentient beings in the 6 realms are truly pitiable. They have absolutely no time to rest, no moments of peaceful happiness whatsoever. As it is truly and indeed said, there is no happiness in the 6 realms. There is no delicious taste in an utterly unclean room. To use a metaphor to explain this, it is just like fish caught in a vast net, huge net in the wide world, constantly living in the ever-flowing rivers and streams. But occasionally, they can indeed escape and be freed from their confinement, yet they inevitably end up back in the river again. And when they eventually come out once more, they are once more caught in the nets and traps. So this whole section is explained through metaphors. Earlier, it was explained through meaning. Sentient beings in the 6 realms of samsara do not even have a moment's rest. What is it like? It's like fish caught in a dragnet. Here, even if you release them and scoop them up elsewhere, in fact, everywhere is full of nets. Sometimes when we release animals, everyone can feel it. When I fished it out here, there were many mopping nets all over there. There's absolutely no way I'll fall into it again. Finally, he died there. So we sentient beings in reincarnation, maybe in the 6 realms, coming out of the animal realm, but going to hell. Even out of hell, there is really no way in human nature. So we are in the cycle of reincarnation for a very long time, for many years. There is no way to attain liberation. This is used as a metaphor, vivid metaphor, powerful analogy, comparing the miserable situation of fish caught in nets, trapping nets. So these sentient beings, suffering beings, and those like them, these sentient beings are the ones the Buddha worries about the most. I should feel concern and compassion. Seeing these sentient beings, truly, before they attain liberation, there is not the slightest certainty. They are all like fish caught in nets. Among the sentient beings in our cycle of rebirth, we are originally especially worried about these beings. Indeed, sometimes we think about it ourselves, that in this life we have encountered the Dharma and met great Mahayana spiritual teachers. We must do as taught in the words of my perfect teacher, to give up even our skull and never be reborn in samsara. If this time we do not attain our liberation now and continue to sink into it, it will be like searching for a needle in the ocean. No one can save us. Therefore, in our brief human life, we strive to succeed in practice. On this point, everyone must have strong confidence. This is very important. In the vast and boundless ocean of samsara, endless samsara, cyclic existence, we have encountered such profound Mahayana Buddhism, precious Buddhism. This is truly as rare as a blind turtle encountering a wooden yoke, floating and drifting. It is extremely, extremely difficult to come across. At this crucial time, if we do not seize this truly significant opportunity with the utmost seriousness, if we are indeed careless and negligent with such a valuable and rare chance that has been presented to us, after this life passes, then in the next life, perhaps we will be reborn in hell or among animals. If that's the case, then truly, who knows when or what day we will be able to encounter the true Dharma and liberation again. There may not be a glimmer of hope. Therefore, each and every one of us should reflect on this ourselves. The fact that we have encountered the path to liberation in this very life is actually not a mere coincidence. It should be the positive result of accumulating merit over countless lifetimes. But as for whether we will have such opportunities in the future, it is also very hard to say. So we must keep in mind that Shakyamuni Buddha was also especially concerned about the sentient beings trapped in samsara. He then continued saying, Since you have already made such a truly great and profound vow and have taken such vast, extensive, and repeatedly affirmed vows over countless immeasurable eons of time, and are indeed able to liberate so many deeply sinful and suffering beings, then what possible reason do I have to worry or be concerned about anything at all? Shakyamuni Buddha saw that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's profound vows from the past were extremely firm and unwavering, and that his ability to liberate all sentient beings was also incredibly powerful and effective. In this way, the Buddha no longer felt worried or concerned. With Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva present, because Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is essentially the Buddha's representative, it's like having an especially strong and unwavering leader. With such steadfast and devoted bodhisattvas, the Buddha has nothing to worry about. He is fully capable of liberating these sentient beings. Next, two significant and profound stories are recounted. At this particular time, among the venerable assembly gathered in the magnificent Trayastrimsha heaven, there was a great bodhisattva whose name was Concentration Mastery King. He addressed the Buddha, saying, "World-honored one, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, throughout countless lifetimes and kalpas, what kind of vows has he actually made? That is why today the Buddha has been continually praising Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, but none of us really know Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. What vows has this Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva indeed actually made? In different places, what kinds of vows exactly did he make? Today we are truly grateful to the world-honored one, especially because you have been so graciously praising him. We, with utmost sincerity, earnestly hope, world-honored one, that you could briefly yet comprehensively tell us exactly what kind of magnificent and profound vows he has made. Could you please enlighten us with this crucial information?" At that time, the Bodhisattva Concentration Mastery King asked Shakyamuni Buddha, "Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is so remarkable, and you praise him every day in various situations. Exactly what kind of vows has he made? Could you tell us?" Then the Buddha, the world-honored one, addressed the great Bodhisattva Concentration Mastery King. The Buddha usually addresses a certain Bodhisattva in this particular way, but for some of us disciples, for example, consider a scenario or a situation where, if you were to pose a question to the revered Guru, it might initially appear that the Guru is directly addressing a singular disciple present. However, in actual fact, the profound question that was asked and the insightful answer provided should be for everyone. This is actually very important. Some people say, "This is meant for him, not for me." But look, when the Bodhisattva Concentration Mastery King asks, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva or others, it's not Buddha spoke to Concentration Mastery King and not related to me, so I don't need to listen. It's not said like that. So there is karmic connection here. At that time, Buddha addressed Bodhisattva Concentration Mastery King. Listen carefully, and reflect on this well. Listen carefully refers to hearing, to listening well, to listening attentively. Reflect well refers to contemplation, a stage of hearing, contemplating, and practicing. The earlier listen carefully means hearing. To reflect well truly means to deeply contemplate. To remember this means to practice. Listen very carefully, and after listening, take time to deeply contemplate. After thoroughly contemplating, continue to recall and put it into practice repeatedly and consistently. Actually, the stages of hearing, contemplating, and practicing are all present here. I will now explain and elaborate upon these concepts for your thorough understanding. Following this, I will tell two engaging stories. Earlier today, specifically before our class, I also had the opportunity to play for everyone the captivating and ancient stories of the two revered kings and the intriguing narrative of Bright Eyes. We may not finish the story of Bright Eyes today, but we will be able to finish the story of the two kings. He said, in the distant past, countless asamkhya nayuta, incalculable, unspeakable kalpas ago, there was indeed a Buddha whose sacred name was all wisdom accomplished Tathagata. This Buddha was actually also worthy of offering, truly all-knowing, perfect in knowledge and conduct. Well gone, truly the knower of the world, the great unsurpassed one and most worthy tamer of men, teacher of devas and humans, Buddha, world-honored one. These are the 10 titles of a Buddha. This Buddha had a very long lifespan of 60,000 kalpas. Before he renounced the household life, he was a minor king, a ruler of a small domain. His country was a relatively small nation, much like Nepal or Lesotho, for example. I've been to some of these places before. Some countries are really tiny. He was a king of a small country, not the ruler of a great nation. The powerful king of a large and prosperous country is quite different. His immediate neighbor was also a relatively small and less significant country. The two kings had a good relationship. At the same time, they both practiced the 10 virtuous deeds, benefiting sentient beings. But in the neighboring country, all the people there, originally this king wanted to practice virtuous deeds to finally bring peace to his own country. But in the nearby country, they committed killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and so on, engaging in many unwholesome actions and creating all kinds of negative karma. At this particular time, these two kings, actually the kings of that era, were quite truly remarkable and noteworthy. Both of them were followers of Buddhism. They began to discuss and carefully devise various skillful and effective means. As they devised these skillful means, they thoughtfully made their aspirations. I watched that animated film, and both great kings, in front of all the people of their respective two countries, made truly great vows, sacred vows. When the king himself makes such vows, powerful vows, then the people will naturally follow suit, willingly follow. Whatever vow the king makes, the people do the same. For example, if the king says, I want to give rise to bodhicitta, the people will also say, we want to give rise to bodhicitta. If the king says, I want to kill all sentient beings, then we would also want to kill. Whatever the king does, the people will follow suit. If the king makes such vows, then the people will make the same vows. So what kind of profound vow did one of the ancient kings make? To attain complete Buddhahood early and save all sentient beings, truly not leaving a single one behind. At that significant time, one of the kings solemnly vowed that he would first become a Buddha and then liberate all sentient beings, not leaving a single sentient being behind, not a single one left behind, all ultimately attaining Buddhahood. That beggar, yes, not leaving a single one. Once in class I said not leaving a single one. I don't know if he heard it himself in class or if someone else had perhaps told him all about it. He used to recite Om Mani Padme Hum, but when he actually saw me, he would always say, not leaving a single one, not leaving a single one at all. He truly thought I genuinely liked hearing him repeatedly say, not leaving a single one. But when he left for the last time, he offered the 300 yuan he had begged for as an offering. And then he left saying, I'm leaving now. That particular beggar was a bit special. Now, I never seem to see him around anymore. He really didn't leave a single one behind, did he? There was once a king who made a solemn vow. Do you happen to know what it actually was? He vowed to first attain Buddhahood and then not leave a single being behind. He desired for all sentient beings to ultimately achieve the enlightened state of Buddhas, complete Buddhahood, perfect awakening. And there was another king, virtuous king, compassionate ruler, who said that unless he first saved all suffering and tormented beings, bringing them peace and enlightenment, ultimate liberation, final freedom, he would never be willing to become a Buddha himself. He wanted to save all sentient beings first, let them truly attain peace and enlightenment. If sentient beings have not yet indeed attained peace and enlightenment, then I will never truly become a Buddha and will continue to keep waiting patiently for all sentient beings. Just like the revered Manjushri Bodhisattva also made such a profound vow. This significant vow is also further explained in the sections below. The Buddha said to Concentration Mastery King Bodhisattva, the one who vowed to attain Buddhahood early, as mentioned earlier, is all wisdom accomplished Tathagata, who has now already become a Buddha. The power of his vow is still very important. There is one who vowed to first save suffering sentient beings, and before he ultimately became a Buddha himself, he would not truly attain Buddhahood. This one who made such a vow is Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. So the vows that each and every one of us makes are actually very significant and profoundly meaningful. Generating bodhicitta is indeed very important. If you want to save sentient beings, no matter what kind, whether you attain Buddhahood first or later, in fact, from a certain perspective, there isn't much difference. In the related scriptures, it is also explained that there is a king's way of arousing bodhicitta, a boatman's way of arousing bodhicitta, and a shepherd's way. Among these three types of aspiration, Manjushri and Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's aspiration is that before all sentient beings are liberated, in other words, before all sentient beings are saved, they themselves will not attain liberation. Just as it is also stated in the Shurangama Sutra, those who vow to save others before being saved themselves are making the aspiration of a bodhisattva. It is also explicitly stated this way in the Venerable Shurangama Sutra. To first liberate all sentient beings, this profound kind of aspiration is also clearly mentioned in the sacred Nirvana Sutra, these different kinds of aspirations. For each and every one of us, in actual fact, in this very lifetime, it truly is not an easy thing to obtain a human body. When His Holiness would turn the wheel of Dharma each and every year, in his much later years, it seemed that However, not every single time was precisely like this. When we first initially arrived, during that particular period, every single year, on the auspicious day of the Buddha's turning of the Dharma wheel, His Holiness would transmit the Bodhisattva vows and require us to make aspirations. At that time, we truly did indeed make such aspirations, but I don't know if we later broke the Bodhisattva vows or not. Because back then, actually at that time, I felt that when I first came to Larungar, the Dharma Academy was also very pure. Every time His Holiness gave a teaching, the sense of inspiration was extremely strong and truly profound indeed. Anyway, whatever His Holiness said, we would truly do it. It truly felt like we had genuinely entered His unique world. For example, there was a specific period when He diligently taught Madhyamaka, when He taught the profound Madhyamaka Shastra. When we had just arrived at Larungar, newly arrived, we especially felt, wow, encountering Madhyamaka in this lifetime is such a blessing. Later, in the 1990s, I also transmitted it to others. At that time, I was also very passionate. Now it seems I don't have quite as much passion. I think Madhyamaka is about everything being empty. But perhaps in the future, I will indeed teach the profound text, Entering the Middle Way. This is because at that particular time, I truly put in a significant amount of effort. Whether it was diligently memorizing or carefully reading various different commentaries and explanations, all my energy was devoted entirely to diligent study and deep contemplation. Truly, in our world at that particular time, there was absolutely nothing else. Now, there are more things going on at Larungar. In my world, it's a bit better when I'm teaching classes, but at other times I worry about this, doing this thing, that thing. In my world, there are a lot of messy, chaotic things. Back then, things were very, very pure indeed. For example, when studying Madhyamaka, there was nothing except Madhyamaka. How was it explained in the auto-commentary of Introduction to the Middle Way, Explanation of the Secret Meaning, and in Gorampa's commentary? How did Mifam Rinpoche explain it? Especially Mifam Rinpoche at that time, the outline was composed by Mifam Rinpoche. At that time, I also really wanted to translate that auto-commentary, but later it seemed that life was also very short. Several decades passed by quickly. I don't know if such conditions will arise in the future. So I was thinking back then, His Holiness, whether He was teaching a Madhyamaka or teaching Vajrayana or whatever He was indeed teaching, all of us, everything, every conceivable experience would enter into the boundless and profound world of His transcendent wisdom. At that pivotal moment, we truly made this profound and unwavering aspiration. I must liberate all sentient beings, every single living creature, from suffering and guide them towards enlightenment, even before attaining Buddhahood myself. I must liberate all sentient beings, aspirations like this. So sometimes during very special and important Buddhist festivals, everyone truly needs to make aspirations. This is very important. Today I had the opportunity to share a profound passage from the revered Letter to a Disciple, which states, like a raging wind blowing out a lamp, life is utterly unreliable from moment to moment, constantly changing and impermanent. In a strong wind, perhaps in an instant, whoosh, the lamp is immediately extinguished. As for our lives today, it seems I am doing well here. I am here giving a lecture to everyone. But tomorrow I could just suddenly be gone. Today, you are here listening to the lecture, doing whatever you are doing, and suddenly something could happen. It truly is like a lamp in a raging wind. For me personally, the power of impermanence is still a very strong feeling. If we do not make significant aspirations by this exact time next year, on next year's auspicious wheel-turning day, then whether we are still in this world is really hard to say. So in this specific case, no matter what, if we make this aspiration in this life, the power of this aspiration can continue through lifetimes. There is no doubt. So everyone should also make aspirations in this way. Look, back then, two kings made their aspirations. One became Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, and the other became all-wisdom accomplished Tathagata. Now, let me tell another story. It shouldn't matter if I talk a little more, right? After all, everyone hasn't been busy lately, right? Originally, I emphasized that it would be about an hour, but recently I've been talking a bit more, getting a little long-winded. As people get older, they tend to get more and more long-winded, right? The other day, I said that some people are especially grateful that the Dharma teacher is so long-winded. That comment was about myself, only myself, not about anyone else, other people. Now I am going to tell the second story, next story, the second case. Just now, wasn't it Concentration Mastery King Bodhisattva asked how Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva made his aspiration? I've already finished talking about the aspirations of the two kings. Next is the vow made by bright eyes. In countless eons past, there was a Buddha who appeared in the world. His name was Pure Lotus Eye Tathagata. His lifespan could reach 40 kalpas. During the era of his semblance dharma, there was an arhat. He often relied on his merit to liberate sentient beings. He did so by gradually forming connections through alms rounds. In this way, he established good affinities with sentient beings. During this process, he once encountered a certain woman. Her name, as it happened, was Bright Eyes. She was preparing a wide variety of offerings. She arranged these numerous offerings in order to make offerings to the Venerable Sangha. While she was making these offerings to the Sangha, the esteemed Arhat respectfully asked her she should make an offering to him. And after she did so, after the Arhat received and enjoyed the offering, he asked, "What do you wish for?" He asked, "What do you hope to gain by making offerings to the Sangha like this?" Bright Eyes replied, "Today is indeed the solemn anniversary of my beloved mother's passing. I have diligently accumulated much merit and virtue, sincerely hoping to save my dear mother. I truly do not know where my mother is currently or into what realm she has been reborn." There is something important to note here, something worth considering. Why do ordinary lay people make offerings to monks? There is a significant purpose behind making these offerings to monks. She deeply hoped her mother could truly attain liberation. So whether we are truly monastics or either just ordinary lay people, when others make offerings to you, it is not without reason. They definitely have a clear purpose. It's simply impossible that they would give without truly expecting anything in return. That simply does not happen at all. Why do they make offerings to you? Some people do it for their health, while others pursue it for personal financial wealth. And some individuals make vows to help all sentient beings in the distant future. No matter who is making offerings to the Sangha, it is always for such reasons. So some young monastics, when other people make offerings, they often take it completely for granted and treat it quite casually and lightly. They might not fully appreciate the effort involved. But in fact, we should, at the very least, recite sutras or even just a few short dedication verses or mantras to dedicate the merit to the benefactors. This is a very important principle, vital principle, fundamental rule. Otherwise, you might mistakenly think, I truly deserve to accept these offerings. But actually, it's not always so easy to genuinely accept offerings, spiritual offerings. Sometimes the very things we receive as offerings, the person is usually very stingy. But if they're truly generous to monastics or to their spiritual teacher, they definitely have a purpose. It's not for nothing. Normally, they are attached even to a single hair. So if that is indeed the case, then for sure, regarding these offerings, and this money, they earned it through diligent and hard work. It was certainly not easy at all to acquire. So if you treat their valuable offerings with utter carelessness, if you waste them recklessly and without any consideration, then the karmic consequences are waiting for you ahead. Therefore, try your very best to handle these offerings properly. In the beginning, whenever someone made an offering to me, I was especially careful. In 1986, I went into a retreat for the Rains retreat. At that time, someone offered me 10 yuan. I was really quite worried about what kind of karmic result this might actually bring. I specifically recited a great many Avalokiteshvara mantras, but now I have to admit, sometimes I've become quite numb to it all. I still try my very best to use these offerings for truly meaningful purposes. But sometimes, even though I want to, I just don't have enough mental energy. There are all sorts of things going on. So generally speaking, if you look at the arhats, after someone made an offering to them, they wouldn't just say, "Okay, you've made your offering, bye-bye, I'm leaving." It wasn't like that. After receiving the offering, they would say, "What exactly do you truly want?" They would invariably start to ask. The young woman then replied, "I have carefully made this offering to you in order to save the life of my mother who is suffering." The arhat was filled with great compassion. When he observed through entering meditative concentration, he saw the beloved mother of Bright Eyes. She had tragically fallen into the deepest pits of hell and was experiencing immense and unbearable suffering, a truly agonizing ordeal. The arhat continued to ask, "What kind of work did your dear mother do while she was still alive?" Now sadly, she has fallen into a lower realm and is experiencing immense suffering. Perhaps even highly enlightened arhats or compassionate Buddhas, sometimes they also ask such profound questions. This has indeed happened before. Originally, the arhat should have already known what her mother was like in the past. But he still asked perhaps to further confirm things with a thoughtful expression. He then inquired, "What exactly did your mother do before this time?" At this precise point, Bright Eyes thoughtfully replied, "My mother, what exactly were her daily habits and personal preferences during her entire lifetime?" She especially liked to eat various kinds of things, such as delicious fish and slow-moving turtles, you see. Things that live in the water. Some of us also grew up by the sea or by flowing rivers and tranquil lakes. So maybe we've had these habits since childhood. Loving eat fish, loving eat shrimp, loving to eat delicious things from the vast blue sea. She also consumed various fish and aquatic turtles, and they even consumed their roe, which are those tiny, delicate, and often highly prized eggs, typically harvested from fish or other marine animals, and considered a delicacy in many cultures around the world. Those fish eggs are very, very small. You quite often see them in photos, red ones, black ones, and indeed all kinds of vibrant colors. Nowadays, people frequently discuss all sorts of caviar, expensive caviar. I've heard that some fellow practitioners especially like to use it. Her beloved mother, dear mother, when she was still alive previous life, especially loved eating these delicious things. Some were stir-fried, some were boiled. You could truly say she indulged herself completely without any restraint whatsoever, enjoying and eating as much as she pleased without any scruples at all. Eating like this, the number of lives involved is in the thousands, tens of thousands, countless. She described all of her mother's difficult circumstances in great detail. I've also been thinking some of our fellow practitioners grew up in less fortunate environments from a very young age and have absolutely no idea that these are living sentient beings. Even now, there are still some monastics and even some Buddhists who still don't know this. They think that fish and shrimp, these small creatures, don't really count as taking a life. They say, I'm a vegetarian, but fish is okay to eat. Some of them really do, in fact, think this way. So perhaps we should then, since we've eaten a lot of these things in the past, some of which were even killed to order. I've heard that some people living by the sea, including some Buddhists, used to run restaurants and would go themselves and wouldn't buy anything except live seafood. Some people who are a bit better off financially, sometimes we think that those with less wealth are actually a bit better off in this regard, because if you don't have much, you can't afford to eat a lot of meat. So you end up not eating very much of it at all, which is actually much better for you. But those who are a bit wealthier, who have money, substantial wealth, because they have some money, they feel especially, even the way they carry themselves in restaurants is different, completely different. They just go all out, totally extravagant, ordering this and that, various delicacies and seafood, saying, I want it live, I want this, I want that. By doing this, who knows how much negative karma they've accumulated. But there are still some farmers, like in our Tibetan region, it used to be like this too. There were cattle, cows, and sheep. They were wealthy. They would accumulate a lot of negative karma. But if they were a bit poorer, they wouldn't kill as many innocent animals each year, which would be a truly significant and positive change for the karma accumulated. Her mother, in particular, used to especially love eating fresh fish. Back then, before we became monks, although we certainly ate other kinds of meat and genuinely liked it quite a lot, we didn't dare to eat fish. The reason we didn't eat it is because there's a saying among the Tibetan people that when a fish dies, it can't close its eyes in death. Its eyes keep staring at you. So whoever actually kills or eats it, the fish will always remember them. That's why we have this kind of custom. It's a folk custom. I haven't seen this mentioned in the Buddhist scriptures. So generally, as I've said before, when it comes to fish meat, in other places like elementary schools and such, I never saw anyone eating fish. When I got to the teacher training college, I saw that at our school, people often ate fish. At that particular time, I would simply substitute it with other available food items. So in this lifetime, I've never eaten fish meat. But there are definitely many people among us who have eaten fish meat. There are certainly a lot of them. I think it's really necessary to sincerely repent for this. As for the fish we ate in the past, some were killed intentionally, and some were not killed intentionally. If they weren't killed intentionally, there is still fault in eating meat. But it's not as serious, though it is still worth repenting for. At that time she said, Venerable, you are truly most compassionate. Could you kindly please now save my mother? This is my mother's situation, she asked. Could you compassionately save my mother? The Arhat felt especially compassionate toward her because he had already finished accepting offerings. He felt an especially profound sense of compassion toward her, and then, after some thought, he conceived of a suitable method for her. Subsequently, he carefully arranged this method for her benefit. What was this particular method? He advised Lady Bright Eyes, saying, You should sincerely and devoutly recite the sacred name of the Tathagata Pure Lotus Eyes. He told her to continuously recite this Buddha's revered name. At that particular time, perhaps this Buddha was no longer present in the world, or some other reasons. So he therefore told her to recite this sacred name, at the same time to create a sacred image of this Buddha. In this beneficial and meaningful way, both the living individuals and the departed deceased would undoubtedly receive great and lasting benefit. This is because even after the beloved mother has peacefully passed away, it remains incredibly important for us to perform some virtuous and compassionate good deeds specifically for her. This is very meaningful for both the living and the deceased. I saw in the Buddha Speaks of Abhisheka Sutra, it says, to cultivate merit for the deceased is like sending provisions to someone far away. None will fail to bear fruit. If we practice some virtuous deeds for the deceased, whether it's reciting sutras for them or making Buddha statues or diligently reciting the Buddha's sacred name, in this particular way, actually, if you were to send some financial assistance or money to someone who is located very far away, it's impossible for them not to receive it. Because if they are about to leave and you give them provisions for the journey, they will definitely benefit from it. So, if for the deceased, departed souls, we recite sutras for a period of 49 days, complete days for example, or often help them by performing various virtuous deeds, wholesome deeds, beneficial actions, they will definitely receive benefit. Among all of us present here, some may be like me, whose parents may have already passed away. But whenever you think of them, you should, for example, make a beautiful Buddha statue for them or offer a meal to the monastic community on their behalf, even if, for instance, in the past, it was usually just 3 or 4 yuan, and then you would write your parents' names and submit it. This is still indeed very important. But I have noticed that some of us, no matter what the circumstances may be, it is still essential that you submit the names, and this action is indeed profoundly necessary. At that very moment, when Bright Eyes heard this important message, she immediately gave up all her most cherished and beloved possessions and began to make a statue of the Tathagata. She offered it with profound and deep reverence, devoutly praying, continuously shedding heartfelt tears, and humbly prostrating herself before the divine at the very same moment in time. And she kept doing this continuously. Here it says that she gave up her beloved possessions. I also mentioned this briefly the other day. Generally speaking, when someone in the family passes away, I said that in Tibetan area, according to the profound and ancient Buddhist tradition, the most excellent and highly regarded practice is whether it is considered the very best horse, or the finest clothes, or the most precious and truly cherished treasures, they are all offered to the Sangha and given up, entirely abandoned. This is very important. But nowadays it seems that people in the world don't do this. For example, after someone passes away, if he had a very nice watch or a very nice car or any other valuable things, the children will immediately start using them. Actually, this is not very good. If when the deceased was alive, he was especially fond of his prayer beads, his computer, or his phone, his car, or things of that nature, you must make sure to dispose of them. This is very important. If when the deceased was alive, he was especially attached to his own computer, you absolutely should not use it yourself. Otherwise, he may never rest in peace, always watching, who knows. You absolutely must offer this valuable computer to the Sangha. This is because the various things the deceased was especially attached to during their life must be used to do good deeds for him. This is very important. This also aligns with the teachings of the Buddhist scriptures. If you look at several of our ancient sutras, the things he especially loved, especially the material possessions the deceased truly loved most, you must deal with them. So what should you do with them? Either release living animals or print sacred Buddhist scriptures or offer them to the Venerable Sangha or do some other truly good deeds. This is very, very good. Some children, for example, take something their parents especially loved, sell it for money and then split the money among themselves. At most, they give a little bit of money for the deceased and recite sutras for them. Actually, this is unreasonable. Strictly speaking, if the living can let go, genuinely release, or if you have the means to do so, real means, adequate capability, the things that the deceased loved, truly treasured, or the things that belong to them, once owned. For example, if your family has 30,000 yuan and there are 3 people, then the deceased should also have 10,000 yuan as their share. This money, their own property, should be used for good deeds. This is very necessary indeed. Your property is valuable. For example, if your family has about 30,000 yuan and there are 3 people, then the deceased also deserves 10,000 yuan. This must be used to accumulate merit. Otherwise, out of the 10,000 yuan, only 25 yuan is used to recite sutras, and the rest is divided among the children. Actually, in all honesty, this isn't particularly good from my point of view. This is merely one perspective provided exclusively for your personal guidance and reference. At that particular time, she turned the cherished things she deeply loved into a beautiful Buddha statue, and then she earnestly began to pray. While praying devoutly, one night in the latter part of the night, late night, she dreamed of the Buddha's body, sacred body. The Buddha was golden, dazzling and radiant, shining with great light like Mount Sumeru, majestic Sumeru. Then the Buddha spoke to Bright Eyes, compassionate and gentle words. Your beloved mother will soon be reborn into your household. This precious child will possess a remarkable awareness. When this child feels the sensations of hunger or the chill of cold, she will be able to clearly speak. Following this, a dedicated maid who serves within her household gave birth to a precious child. This remarkable child was not even 3 full days old, yet he could astonishingly speak in clear human language. And as he kowtowed, he was utterly heartbroken, crying so incredibly hard he could barely speak a single word. And then he tearfully told Bright Eyes, the causes and conditions of samsara are truly inconceivable. This karmic retribution is also something that you absolutely must bear yourself for all the terrible things you have done. I am your own mother. Ever since the moment I left you, I have been living in profound darkness for a very, very long period of time. I must have repeatedly fallen into the great hells, because how many years and days her mother had been dead is not clear here. Perhaps it had been many years. Perhaps the way time is calculated in the human world is a bit different from the way karma is experienced in hell. There is a bit of a different feeling. It's just like how one day in the human world is equivalent to many, many years for the heavenly beings. Ever since I left you, I have fallen into the great dark hells many times. Later, because I received the immense merit from your virtuous deeds, you recited the Buddha's name and made Buddha statues for me before. Because of this, I was able to obtain a human body. But now I have been reborn among lowly, humble people, as the child of a mere servant in their household, and I must accept this new reality. Among the lowly people, and my lifespan is also very short. I can only live for a mere 13 years. After that, I will inevitably continue to fall into the 3 evil realms, experiencing immense suffering. Do you have any way, any effective method to truly help me avoid these terrible sufferings and ultimately attain complete and lasting liberation? At that particular time, before 3 full days had completely passed, when he finally saw his beloved daughter, precious daughter, he approached her and told her in this specific way. When Bright Eyes heard these words, she processed them completely and had no doubts at all regarding their veracity, complete truthfulness. Knowing he was her own beloved mother. Then, after Bright Eyes heard this news, she immediately knew it was indeed her own mother. She had absolutely no doubts at all, not even a single one. She was utterly choked up with profound grief and began to cry uncontrollably. With a voice heavy with emotion, she then spoke to the maid's son, saying, "Since you are truly my mother, then you should undoubtedly know all of your original sins, every single one of them, all of these karmic offenses. What kind of karma did you create that caused you to fall into hell?" She was definitely asking knowingly. She said, "Since you are indeed my mother, then you also truly know the source of your karmic offenses. Why did you fall into hell?" At this moment, the maid's son replied, "In the past, I mainly killed perhaps various types of fish, numerous turtles, and other such aquatic creatures. I indeed killed them all." The karma of killing was very heavy. There was also the significant karma of slander and verbal abuse, these 2 negative actions as well. She was just like the previously mentioned Brahmin woman, experiencing a similar fate. Her mother probably liked to eat these sentient beings. creatures with feelings and consciousness, and at the same time did not believe in the three jewels, which are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, so her karmic offenses, especially the negative karma she created through her speech, was very serious. We often see that the beings in hell, some of them have truly committed very serious acts of killing. Indeed, while others have committed very serious acts of slander, there is a scripture of unknown translator called the Observing the Disciplines of 10 Virtues Sutra, which says, among heavenly beings, nothing is more fragrant than kind speech. Among all heavenly beings, the very best and most cherished thing is truly kind and gentle speech. What, in your opinion, personal opinion, is the most foul and truly repulsive thing in all of the three realms, entire realms? It is harsh words, cursing others and slandering others. This is the most terrifying thing. Therefore, those of us who are wise should be able to effectively control our speech and the words we utter. Indeed, if you truly hadn't accumulated a significant amount of merit this particular time, it would have been exceedingly difficult, almost impossible, to save someone like me, whose negative karma is so incredibly deep and ingrained. So for this very important reason, if you hadn't done such great amount of good deeds, I would not be eligible for liberation yet. I shouldn't be liberated yet. My sentence definitely hasn't been completed. It is only because you have performed such truly exceptional and highly meritorious deeds that I was indeed able to successfully escape from my confinement well before my designated sentence was fully up. At that time, Bright Eyes continued to ask, what exactly are the punishments in hell truly like? Can you describe to me the intense feelings and suffering experienced in hell in detail? What is it really truly like? Then the maidservant's son replied to her again, as for the suffering of the punishments, I cannot adequately describe it to you using mere words. Even if I were to speak with you continuously for hundreds or even thousands of years, there would still be absolutely no way to completely express the essence of it in words. It is an impossible task to ever finish explaining or articulating its entirety. What I mean is, it's not possible to explain everything to you very clearly and thoroughly in great detail. When it comes to describing hell with words, even after many, many years, it's impossible to explain everything to you clearly all at once. In short, it's quite difficult to fully sum up everything in just a few simple words. At that particular time, let's recite a bit more. She made a vow to improve things a little. Otherwise, it would just be a little bit. At this moment, after hearing this, Bright Eyes felt deeply and truly pained and began to cry sorrowfully. She then made a vow in the air to herself, wishing with all her heart that her dear mother would forever leave the depths of that terrible hell and be completely freed from its grasp for good, never to return. And then, after he had finally turned 13 years of age, may he not have to endure the karmic retribution of falling into hell. May he, through the profound and benevolent blessings of the enlightened Buddha, receive immense grace and spiritual protection during this auspicious and significant time. Have his sins disappear after 13 years. May Buddhas of 10 directions remember me. When I translated this into Tibetan, I put, may Buddhas of 10 directions remember me, listen to my vow, at the beginning. I placed this at the start. I'm not sure of a mistake, but perhaps it's better putting it at the beginning. Because at the beginning, she was making a vow for her mother, and later she made a vow for herself. So for us, really, this particular time, everyone must be well prepared and make aspirations. On one hand, for all the motherly sentient beings who are connected with us, may they be free from suffering and attain happiness. The power of making such aspirations is truly immense. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, Shakyamuni Buddha, actually our own karmic obstacles are very heavy, but the objects of our aspirations, these Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and great virtuous teachers are truly remarkable. They have all manifested in this world. On one hand, we are quite unfortunate, having been reborn in the Saha world, with heavy karmic obstacles and deep afflictions. Each of us has endless karmic debts to speak of. But on the other hand, if we look at the positive side, we have encountered exceptionally good spiritual teachers, exceptionally good Buddhas, and exceptionally good Bodhisattvas. Our connections with them should be quite good. Our network of relationships is still pretty decent. So everyone should think this way. All the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are watching over us with compassion. Listen to me as I make this aspiration for my mother. If my beloved mother can forever be truly free from the 3 lower realms, the 3 evil destinies, as well as from ever being born into a lowly human existence, and even from being reborn in the future as a particularly inferior female body, may she never have to take such a rebirth. From this moment forward, I truly aspire that in front of the sacred image of the pure lotus-eyed Tathagata, for as many countless worlds as there are, in hundreds of thousands of millions of eons, I shall dedicate myself. Whether it's all the hells or the evil destinies, or all of the three lower realms, hell and the three lower realms are acceptable terms, but this verse we have options to choose from. It could be hell. Hell is especially, like the Vajra hell in Vajrayana, for example, and also the three lower realms as described in the exoteric teachings. Hell, hungry ghosts and animals, these beings who are indeed suffering from such karmic retribution, I vow to save them all. Let all these beings in hell, all beings in the animal realm, all beings in the hungry ghost realm, and all such kinds of sentient beings, I vow to lead them all to Buddhahood, to liberate them completely. Only then will I attain perfect enlightenment myself. Each one of us, this time is probably a rather special occasion. Everyone should primarily dedicate for their parents, wishing them to be free from suffering and attain happiness, and we ourselves should aspire to be like Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, Manjushara Bodhisattva, and Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. First, I will liberate all these sentient beings, suffering beings, and then I will attain Buddhahood, supreme Buddhahood. Everyone should make such vows, sacred vows. Such vows are truly extraordinary, truly remarkable, truly noble. Here we have the pure lotus-eyed Tathagata, a revered and enlightened being. And we also have the Lord of the 500 great vows, a powerful and compassionate figure, our fundamental teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. How Shakyamuni Buddha make vows, how Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva make vows. We should make our vows like that, all right? I may have talked a bit too much today. And your recitation of the sutras has also taken quite a considerably long period of time indeed. But that's all right, it happens just for once or twice. We should endure hardship for the Dharma, shouldn't we? When it comes to worldly matters, we can watch TV series for hours and hours, or do some utterly meaningless things, even staying up very late, still wide awake at 2 or 3 in the morning. Some individuals even create negative karma in bustling dance halls, yet each of us has plenty of patience for that. And a lot of diligence as well. So when it comes to creating virtuous deeds and making vows, this month we should practice even more austerity. Everyone should make vows and recite the King of Aspiration prayers to dedicate.
Bandangara Badna Asadarda Bandangara Badna Asadarda Bandangara Badna Asadarda